Hey, this is Andre Hartunian from Hexen, and you're experiencing Poppitt's Corner.
Welcome everyone. Episode 86 of Poppitt's Corner, and I'm brought to you, and I bring you on, Miss Lynx from Old Blood. Thanks so much again for coming on the show and hanging.
Thank you so much for the invite, dude. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, so.
I know. I wish we could do it in person, but it is what it is, sort of thing. But no, I digress. We're here. We're hanging out. I got my personal water beverage here. I'm sure you're drinking something, so there you go. Oh, she's got a glass of. There you go.
This is a kind of a spritzer thing. I had a really nice, what was this? A Sauvignon Blanc with dinner. So I
she's all fancy.
poured in.
She's all fancy.
I'm a chef. It's all gotta work together. So.
Ooh. Well, we'll learn about that. Don't spoil everything.
All right. To be sure.
I know, right?
All right.
But yeah, how you been so far? Before we get started, I always like to, what have you been up to since our last conversation? For those of you who've been listening to the Razor, obviously your episode premiered today, which was fantastic. I was checking it out.
Yeah, me too.
I know, right? Like little ego boost. So
totally.
It's great. But how you been?
Rocking and rolling, a lot of cooking, a lot of walking, a lot of cleaning around the house. I am not fabulously, in any other way.
And then, of course, a little beverage here and there, right?
To be sure. Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. It went very well with dinner. So
I know it looks good. I don't think I've ever had champagne or wine, so I don't know what that kind of.
This is not champagne. This is actually a spritzer because it started off as Sauvignon Blanc, and then I finished dinner around this point, and I topped it off with a little liqueur.
Okay.
But,
Yeah. See, I know nothing about any of that stuff. All I know is beer, water, juice, in that order.
That's food. That's food. I dig.
But and you can probably cook with all that stuff too, since you're a chef. Wine and beer.
To be sure. Right? That's the main reason that I had this particular bottle in the house, so that I could cook it with the branzino and the fennel and the carrots and the yums. Yeah.
I love it. So I'm going to go through your entire career, and hopefully we can have some fun and talk about some stuff in between, and you can help me fill in the gaps where I might be lacking. So if you're ready, I'd love to get started.
Let's go.
All right. So I would like to know kind of your first recollection of hearing music, and kind of what was the band for you that you remember hearing, maybe as like a, I don't know, 3, 4, 5-year-old kid.
I mean, when I was really little, what I would hear mostly happened around like the car, KOMO AM 1000 in Seattle. My mom would always plug me into the car and plug in that AM station, and I would get a lot of basically what we would now call yacht rock.
Like Christopher Cross and stuff like that?
Oh, totally. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Anyway, yeah.
Love it.
I mean, dude.
It's the best. I love
that. That was the solid stuff. And, one of my local influences happened to be the guy that sang that song. So I grew up listening to a lot of mom and dad music. And then, oh God, dude, we'd drive down to my grandparents' place in Tacoma, and my dad would constantly be quizzing us. Who are we hearing? He'd be listening to KIXI AM 880.
Now they were playing. What were they kind of playing other than like Christopher Cross? What was kind
that
of like
station? The Christopher Cross, the Michael McDonald was my mom's station.
Right.
My dad's station was like Perry Como and just like the standards, but mostly male singers. So I was hearing a lot of Sinatra Perry Como. Oh man, mercy. Why can't I think of words and names right now? I got to pull out a book. But it was a lot of very male focused vocals and standards,
like singer songwriter type stuff, like folk music almost.
not even folk music. It's like Americana standards, like
Okay.
stuff that you hear in the musical theater, stuff like that,
Okay. So
which would probably feed my brain, which ended up in a lot of musical theater growing up.
what
So.
what I've kind of noticed from interviewing tons of guests, obviously we're on 86 right now, is that the starting point usually is kind of where they end up. So if you
Ooh.
started with a certain kind of music, like you ended up kind of still having that in your system sort of thing, like you're more of like the singer songwriter type stuff, and you still kind of do that to this day, more rock based stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to go away.
No, never
It
will.
it has an imprint. It sticks around, and everything that I do, especially now, I mean, as I've been growing up, I've wanted to keep increasing my, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? But like, just I want to keep increasing the types of things I can do.
Okay, like
But
your vernacular for like any type of activity sort of thing.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
But then I get into it, and all the things I've done before just cascade in as stuff I can pull from, stuff I can refer to, things I can reference and use all along, and I got a lot of history back there. So, there's a lot of musical theater, there's classical music, there's pop music, there's rock music, I'm from Seattle, so
Right.
it's grunge.
Well, that came like way later though. I mean,
Yeah, well,
I think
that's
we're
also a
talking.
thing that is not what I would have called it. That was just music. I was hearing stuff that sounded like that all my life. It wasn't
Well, that,
until I was in high school that somebody gave a name to it.
right. Well, that was also, when it became hugely popular.
To be sure.
But Seattle is also, are you from Seattle? Is that
Yeah,
correct? Okay.
yeah.
I know too that there was kind of a punk scene around that time too, like an underground kind of
For
movement.
sure.
But
Yeah.
obviously you'd probably be way too little to kind of remember some of those things. But as long there is, so the popular stuff at the time was mostly of that kind of yacht rock stuff, and obviously, that's where most of your kind of musical taste kind of stems from, is that very operatic and like I said, singer songwriter type of stuff.
A
So I
little
love it.
bit. I mean, the stuff that was really popular when I was growing up was mostly pop. It was like literally pop top 40 radio stuff. The stuff that my mom was listening to, definitely the yacht rock stuff. My dad was listening to the standards. I, on the other hand, was trying to hear as many guitars as I could.
Ooh,
I was listening to top 40 radio, but okay, wait, there's that Bon Jovi song. Oh, wait, there's that Motley Crue song. Every once in a while, something would pop up that would be like a bit more heavy, a bit different from the stuff they were really pushing that I would really dig. And it wasn't until I was 10 and was introduced to some real metal, by my neighbor, that I was like, oh, now I know what I like.
right. Now, what appealed to you about the guitar, so to speak, or whatever?
Well, I started playing violin in orchestra when I was 10.
That was your first
And,
instrument?
pardon?
That was your first instrument?
My first instrument was piano. I started
Okay,
that when I was 6. Did
okay.
that from 6 to 7. Couldn't stand it because I did not like the stuff that I was being made to learn. And the stuff I was learning just, I don't know, the sound bugged me. And I wanted to play different stuff. So then when I ended up playing violin, I would, pound out some chords here and there on the piano in order to find the note that I needed to for the part. I I mean, we had like an organ in our extra room upstairs, and like I would just go up there and kind of plunk out a few things just to kind of make sense of the classical stuff I was playing in orchestra. And
Now,
then,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
go for it. Go for it.
Oh, well, and then I just kept going from there. Like summer vacation would roll around. I'd still have that organ in the bedroom upstairs that my grandma gave us, and I would start writing songs. And it was usually pretty like raucous stuff that didn't sound anything like what I would hear on the radio until much
Interesting.
later. Yeah.
Now, what appealed to you? Let's go back to just the guitar itself. So
Yeah.
obviously your origins are kind of like the piano, which you kind of learned some chords on. Maybe the sound of the piano wasn't to your liking at that time, so you went to more of the I don't know, just this like a something you can actually hold in your hand, so to speak, instead of like
An instrument you can solo on,
right.
you
And you
know,
can,
and really wail.
I like that. But you chose the violin. Why?
One, it was portable.
Okay.
And two, well, my older sister had played violin at one point. She'd also played the flute at one point. I wanted something that was small, portable, and that could be a wailing, like effective kind of a sound. I wanted to be able to solo like those guitar solos that I heard on that Metallica cassette that my neighbor gave me that day. Like I wanted to do that stuff.
And
And
but why the violin as opposed to say a guitar? Because did you not kind of know that
oh,
that
I
was a
asked for the
guitar?
guitar.
Oh,
I
you
asked for
did.
the
Okay.
guitar. I still had the same parents though. So, I mean, I didn't get a guitar until I was 22. Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe 20 mid or early 20s was my first
Wow.
guitar. Yeah.
So did you play violin up until that point? Probably still do, but I'm saying like a majority of your time was spent
Oh yeah.
kind of
Still do. It's right there. But I I dove into classical music because it was so technical. And I felt like if I knew that, I could learn anything. And I mean, that's what I was always told with the piano. You learn the piano, you can learn anything. But I was like, I don't want to play the piano. I can't take this with me. It's not. I can't put it in my back pocket. I can't put it in the trunk of my car. I wanted something that would be universally playable.
portable.
Playable.
Okay, portable and playable. I like it.
Yeah. I wanted to be able to play it anywhere.
Love it. Now,
You know?
when did you start to notice, your kind of community or musical community around the Seattle movement? Maybe in your teens, maybe a
Oh,
little
for
bit before.
sure.
Okay,
Oh, for sure. I
so talk to
mean,
me about it. What year? And you got to give me like some sort of year, ballpark range.
I think I was probably late middle school, early high school, eighth into 10th grade. Between eighth and 10th grade was when I discovered the Rocket, which was basically like the LA Weekly was here, where you can go to the back of it and you find that list of people looking for musicians, people who are trying to start bands. Like it was before the internet. It was before you could be like, hey, Facebook, I need a drummer. Like I had a friend that lived right up the street. He played the bass. He had moved down from Canada. Hi, Eric Apple. And he and I were trying to start a band, and we're down to do the rock thing. The first call that we got, I got in so much trouble because it came to my house and we didn't have, a bunch of different phone lines around the house. There were no cell phones back then because that was the 80s. Yeah, I got in so much trouble for giving our phone number, our house phone number, out into the world, for anyone to call. And somebody called up and said, "Hey, I want to be in this band," and my mom answered the phone. Whew! Yeah, not a happy day. But from that point, I stopped really trying. So I just kind of just did what I could within reach, like in school, through people I already knew, stopped trying to bring in people through outside publications.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of a band did you want to start initially?
That band was kind of an alternative kind of thing, alternative rock. Again, it was the mid 90s, early 90s. Wow. Oof. Yeah. I graduated from high school in 94. So it was early 90s.
Oh, it wasn't the 80s project where the guy called up your household? No?
Well, it might as well have been. I mean, technology hadn't changed much yet. So we were all kind of doing the same thing. I mean, we were all using the Rocket. We were all using the Stranger. These were two big, like here in LA, that would be
Penny Saver?
No, not the Penny Saver. This was the Stranger and the Rocket, which would basically be the Argonaut and LA Weekly.
Okay.
In opposite order. But yeah. Yeah. That was how we did it back then. And I mean, well, I know about the Penny Saver down here. I know that Lloyd Grant was the first one to answer Lars's ad in the Penny Saver. Lloyd is a good friend of mine now. So it's like, it's weird.
Is it weird though? Is it weird that we're all musicians and actually know each other? I don't think so. I think our community is so tight knit and small that it's like,
it's not that small. That's the thing. I don't think I've known as many people as I know now, ever. I mean, in the time that I lived in Seattle, New York, LA, whatever, like,
well, we're in like the kind of the Mecca. You got to admit that we're in Los Angeles, of course. Now let's go back real quick and go to like your middle school and high school kind of days. So after you put in the ad and you had people start to, give you guys like a call and whatnot. When did you decide that singing was going to be your kind of forte?
It's always been my forte. My mom told me that I came out of the womb singing. I've never not been a singer. I've always been working at other elements of performance, working at being an actor, working at being a set designer, working at anything that had to do with putting on a show. And everything that I really connected with usually had to involve me singing. I mean, that's always been my favorite part. Even in like middle school, high school, doing musicals, that if I did not have a couple of great songs that I could solo on, I was like so not satisfied.
Not. Well, what did singing do for you, just mentally speaking and like emotionally? Because like I mean, obviously it helps me with my anger issues. Not that I have any, but I'm saying like, it's a good, I always felt like if I was like, I don't know, depressed or like in this weird funk or something, like singing or like songs would always help me feel better. I'm just wondering if it's the same kind of case for you.
To be sure. It's a release, and it's also an amp up, because it takes a lot for me to really get geared up to do a thing that's like outside of my wheelhouse. If I got to learn something or do something that's not my everyday, I need some extra energy to push me into it. Singing will do that. I mean, it brings up the soul shit. Like, it's just like, I'm here.
It's interesting that you say that, just because I kind of use that for like being a front man of a band, just because like I was made fun of so much in elementary school and whatnot. So like, that kind of was like my like kind of, I don't know.
Why did people make fun of you?
Because I was a shorter lad. I was very short. So
Me
that's just,
too.
I know. It is what it is. But I'm saying though, like music did that for me where like
Yeah.
it I guess it healed. I guess healed is the right word, but it's just like it gave me a platform that made me feel like kind of superior. And I love that.
Yep.
I'm just kind of curious if singing was like that for you.
I didn't really feel it just singing at first. It was mainly like in musical theater when all of a
Okay.
sudden it's like, okay, not only am I singing and you have to listen to me, but I'm standing on this stage and I'm telling a story that actually matters in another realm of something. It felt bigger. And that's
Ah,
where the majority of my first initial singing happened was in musical theater. I mean, I was always singing, the singing, I don't
standards?
know, standards, singing the national anthem, singing the Black national anthem, just singing whatever
Okay.
that
Okay.
was just attached to whatever was happening that
Right.
didn't have to do with me or have to do with what my project was.
Okay.
Once I finally got into situations where the project had to do with what I wanted it to be, that's where I felt the power. That's where I felt the strength. That's where I felt like I was really showing up. And
Interesting.
here I am. And now I'm like, not just showing up for me, but showing up for these dudes who are crazy sick talented and have written this music that I am overwhelmed by, you know? It,
It's
yeah, happy.
it's almost unfair that we're in bands with like these talented people. That's what I'm always
Almost
grateful.
unfair, almost unfair. It's kind of perfect though.
But I'm great. I'm obviously we're both grateful to, have
I
what we have.
mean, yeah,
So,
like you guys sound like enmeshed. Like you guys sound to me like you guys come together initially as a
ooh,
band or
ooh, we're gonna banter. So yeah, like for like 5 or 6 years ago, this lineup has been together. So we're really tight knit, kind of close family, and
nice.
and it's kind of the first time that that's happened though, because
Mm,
this band's kind of had like a lot of lineup changes. So I didn't really get that kind of taste until this whole thing kind of came together. So yeah, we kind of, I don't know, it just once we all kind of got in the same room, we just kind of felt this connection. It's really strange, but we're trying to
but
take
I get
advantage
it.
of it. Yeah, but we're weird. We get it. Other people don't like certain aspects. That's fine, but it's like we just work so well as a band. We just want to keep growing and growing and making more records, and you know what I mean? Like have a
Yep.
legacy for ourselves. And
Yep.
and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So, with you it's the same way for Old Blood. I'm assuming so in all your projects, you always want to like I don't know, lift everybody up in the project. That's
And
kind
you
of
always want to, and for me, I always want to show up as strong as everybody else showed up for me. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
or more so, like just be like, I've got more to give you. But yeah,
Well,
yeah,
but
I never want to show up as a weak link.
and I never do too. That's why I'm trying to striving and working hard and kicking ass and taking names.
And
That's
you
what I got
are,
to do.
dude. You are.
Thank you.
I'm loving this new album, by the way. I'm
I
so
appreciate
loving
you.
this.
I know me
Yeah.
ditto. I'm loving the new, the Acid Doom record. It's fucking great.
Rock on.
But let's get back to your journey real quick.
All right.
Not real quick, but I want to kind of steer the ship a
Let's
little bit.
wend back into
Yeah.
high school or
Yeah. So let's go back to high school if you don't mind. Did you start to notice more people around you at your school that were in bands? Was there an actual like underground kind of community? And if so, what style of music was around you in Seattle at your high school per se?
Well, if you look next to me in most of my classes, there was a dude named Isaac Brock from the band Modest Mouse,
Mm.
who was usually sitting next to me because my last name starts with BRA. His last name was BRO. We were always seated in alphabetical order. But I didn't even realize that he was in such a great band until like right around our graduation. We were always seated around each other, and I mean, he was the guy who told me that the first Gulf War was starting. Like, this was always around me. My mom went to high school with Jimi Hendrix. I mean, it. I know.
Wow.
Who, by the way, showed up in a dream on Halloween night, and I'm still kind of creeped out by it. But um, I have always kind of shown up around people who have a bigger presence than I do. And in those times, I always felt shrunken by it. Like, okay, well, I've just got to go off to the corner and just not be here because they're so much more important than me. But now I'm kind of thinking, I got to talk to these people. I got to hear these people. I got to see what these people are doing. We're doing. What was that thing that got them there? And I've been a lot more understanding of that now.
Now, does it ever influence you on if and when you're ever in that position, you know, of somebody else kind of feeling like how you did, you know, like let's say you were hypothetically speaking, if you were Hendrix or whatever, and you know, you're like, I shouldn't be here just because, you know, all the talent or whatever, but it's like you probably are more equipped to handle that, something like that. You know what I mean?
Completely.
Bring them into the boxes, I'll call it.
Yeah, totally. I am so much more now like, don't wait. You know, for anybody who wants to do their music thing, their art thing, their visual art thing, their, you know, noise thing, whatever it happens to be, that is not commonplace, do it. Do it. Nobody's going to know you're doing it until you do it. And
when people start to notice it, don't give a shit what they have to say. Just
thank you. Thank you. Just keep going as far as it feels good for you, because that's the thing for me. Like, I remember going back to high school and late middle school. That was when rock and roll started to divide into subgenres. I'm like, really?
Interesting. How so?
That's when, like, I remember, like, in college, nu metal, N-U, metal.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
What is that? It's all metal to me. I'm like, it's heavy. It sounds a little bit like this guy. It sounds a little bit like that guy. It doesn't have to be exactly, you know, it's still metal to me. And I was kind of annoyed that rock was trying to divide itself, especially when people were trying to say that rock and roll was dead.
Oh, so they were even saying it back in like the 90s and early. Okay, I didn't know this.
Oh hell yeah, they were saying that. They were saying that when I was in high school. They were saying rock is dead because they weren't hearing new stuff. They weren't getting anything other than, like, I mean, okay, high school was not quite that divided, but once I got to college, once it was like the mid 90s and all of these extra subgenres started showing up, I'm like, what do you mean? We have to call ourselves something else? It's still rock and roll, right? I mean, rock is that thing to me that your parents told you not to listen to because you might get pregnant. Like, and I still love it.
But it's rebellious. That's the thing.
Exactly. Rebellious, heavy music. Deal with it. I love it. It's just,
but you can say that for all kind of music. I mean, like,
to this day now for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, dude, I'll go off on record. Jazz and funk, fucking love it. If that especially, you know, I'm obviously playing a more heavier style, but I still dig like so much more kind of styles of music than just, you know, rock and metal, so to speak. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I always thought it was more rebellious to like other types of music because it's not really cool or the norm or something? There's like a stigma attached to liking other types of.
Well, that was the thing. By the time I hit college, it wasn't that cool to love rock and roll or metal. You know, that was also the year that I first met Glenn Danzig and all the dudes from Megadeth and Anthrax at in-store things at
Ooh, in
yeah,
stores. I remember those when.
Tower Records, New
Yeah.
York City, Soho. Anyway,
Well, okay, let's go. Let's go to that. So, where was the transition for you, going from Seattle? And I think you said New York, so I'm assuming you went from Seattle to New York.
yeah,
What was the reason for it?
I went to college. I
Okay.
went to NYU. I graduated from Issaquah High School in Seattle in 1994 and moved to New York, went to NYU. And I was there for 3 years, graduated in 97, came back to Seattle, um, did a production of a production of Little Shop of Horrors back in Seattle.
But did you move back to, so after obviously going to school, you moved back to Seattle just because you had family there or something? You had like a home.
I came home after
Okay.
graduation because living in New York is crazy ass expensive, and I was not. I just finished college. I had no money. Like I was not going to stay there for any longer than I needed to. In fact, I graduated a year early. Therefore, I was able to get out of there after 3 years. But I came back, and a couple months later, moved down here to LA.
Interesting. Now let's go to Seattle. So after college, you mentioned you were kind of singing for your Little Shop of Horror and stuff. I'm just kind of curious, how long did that kind of last for?
I was home for 8 months.
Oh, that's it. Okay, so
Yeah, I graduated, I came home, I auditioned, I got the role, we rehearsed, we put up the production, and by the end of that 8 months, the show had closed, and I had found a place down here in LA. A great friend of mine that I'd known since 8th grade. He and I were like, okay, let's just get out of here and let's go down to LA and see what we can do, both as actors. Misha Pfister, who happens to be the guy that was in our last video for Sloth God. Again, I've known him since we were 13. We were competitors in geek competitions, Odyssey of the Mind.
What are geek competitions, if you don't mind me asking?
Odyssey of the Mind. It was a great thing. It was like basically a competition between schools where people had to come up with some sort of production or some sort of presentation to prove something. So some of them were more sciencey, some of them were artsy. I don't even know what the point of ours was. I was playing the god Apollo, the god of poems and song, and I could not stick around too long, so I must go and I must say, hasta la vista and have a nice day. And the person kept going through. It was a weird, silly thing. Misha played the Buddha lady. I don't know. We had all sorts of strange things that we came up with, but it was mainly we could write our own material. We could perform it. I wrote music for ours, like kind of ish. We had to be creative in one way or another in order to solve whatever the question was for our category. And yeah.
Interesting. How does that play a part into kind of what you're doing today? Because I would only assume it would help you just from like,
It's
what
performance,
what are we gonna do for a music video? We need
Yes.
something right on the spot. Oh, I got something. Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's like, let's get on stage and make fools of ourselves and do something really silly that tells a story or creates a recipe or whatever it happens to be. And that was where Misha and I met. We were in 2 different schools, 2 competing teams. My team won.
Of course it did.
And
we won't tell anybody else.
Yes, the Pine Lake team won. And then we went to the state competition, and Pine Lakewood beat us. But anyway, from there, we went to high school together. We were in musical theater and other theater productions together for a long time. Any reason to get on stage was a reason for me to stay after school, you know?
And I'm just kind of curious too. When you were, I still want to go to Seattle, and then we'll get to LA. But
Oh, we're still there. We're still there.
okay.
Yeah.
Your Little Shop of Horrors kind of performance, did that ever kind of tour per se, or was it just?
That was just at that one theater.
Has any of your musical theaters toured? Because I know some of them kind of do. So just, did you get any experience of that?
I have not done that on a tour. I auditioned for Rent many moons ago, and
In
came
New York?
close. No, it was for the tour, and
okay.
I came close. I was like 2 sessions away from actually getting cast, but I also didn't necessarily want to tour with that. Like that wasn't really my jam at the moment. By that point, I was at the point where I was like, I really just want to be doing rock and roll.
Ooh,
Like I was singing a lot of music locally. This was in my LA years, and I was singing a lot of music and playing, here and there on people's albums, doing cameos. I'm like, I just want to rock. I don't necessarily need to do all these other things that I felt were getting me to where I am now.
Interesting. Okay. Now let's go to, obviously you explained kind of why you moved down to LA. What was your first initial thing that you did here in terms of, I don't know, finding a job, an apartment? Like, you moved from Seattle and arguably one of the, like it's not a good time for music around, the 90s and early 2000s out here. I mean, there wasn't like a huge kind of community like there was in like the late kind of 2000s with the thrash thing or whatever. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So,
I mean, I guess I feel like it was bigger than Seattle in general, just because it's a bigger city. But that time that I moved down here was February 17th, 1998.
Oh, I was 7. That's my birthday, and I was 7. I just
Stop.
Okay.
Shut up. Pass me my cane. Get off my lawn, young man. I was 21 years old, and I moved down here February 17th, 98, and that I landed at 7:34 p.m. At that point, I had felt like I had just finished college. It had been maybe 6 months or so. And a bunch of us were just like, okay, let's go hit the, theater / entertainment scene. For me at that point, it was acting. I had studied acting in college. I'm like, okay, I've got this big NYU flag. I'm going to wave it and be like, okay, let's use this. It didn't really get me where I wanted it to get me or where I'd hoped it would get me, but I ended up spending 5 or 6 really good years working on TV. After 3 years of 1-800-DENTIST. Let me tell you where to take your teeth. But
hey, teeth is very important. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. Teeth is very important.
Indeed. I mean, and also working there, I met so many great actors, like Angela Kinsey from The Office. Worked in my office. Like, most of us were all artists in LA trying to do something else and just answering phones, during the day.
Now I gotta preference this. I gotta ask this too. Obviously, being a starving artist, especially in the acting field, I think they say like what 5% make it or something. It's really
something like that.
It's really low. So I'm just kind of curious, for the amount of time that you were, obviously you still do acting, but what kind of kept you going in those formative years when you first moved to LA, you know?
Knowing that nobody makes it their first day. Knowing
Okay.
that it takes a damn long time to find the people you need to know and also find who you need to be. Because, yeah, you may come down knowing or come into this town knowing what you want to do, but then you start to see what's available, how you can get there, who you need to know, what you don't want to do to get there.
Mm.
And for me, I mean, it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm very brown. But
You
there's a
are?
lot of there was a lot of shit that I didn't want to do. I'm like,
Right.
well, also, I grew up in Seattle. I don't know how to sound a certain way. I had a bunch of auditions. They were
Okay.
like, can you just be a little blacker?
Wow.
Do you
Okay.
want me
Well,
to get a tan? I'm in LA now. I can stand in the sun. Like, come on. Really?
that's tough.
And yeah.
That's tough. I don't know.
And I would try and it would sound ridiculous because that's just not part of my lexicon. Like, it
Right.
was very tough for me. I'm a little better at it now, but even that, I'm kind of like, because I've been here more than half my life. But even now, it's ridiculous to me because it's pointless. I mean, that kind of affect is to speak to someone who does not want to understand people for who they are.
Well, they understand they want stereotypes.
Exactly. And that's not what I am. So,
I get it. But that's kind
and
of the
it's hard
sacrifice you
for,
have to make, though, unfortunately, isn't like
yeah.
if what you're saying,
And
that
I'm
kind of
fine with
sucks.
that because it also stops people from accepting stereotypes as fact.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if only I think I think I told you this, you know, off air or whatever, but you know, we have way more in common than what we think.
Ah,
Just
dig
gonna
it.
put that out there, you know, as
Boom.
we as human beings, right?
Indeed. I
That's what we
concur.
and as artists and as whatever else.
Yep.
I like the fact. Do you still do like musical theater outside of the bands, so to speak? And we'll get to the old
I
blood stuff.
have
And
not.
oh,
I have
okay.
not. I would love to. I hate watching it, but I love doing it.
Do you like the
I
process
mean,
of it?
yes. I
Okay.
love the process of it. I love having an excuse to break into song at the drop of a hat, like with no good reason. Because
Well,
in
you can
musical theater, most
right,
times there's no good reason for these songs, but they just have them. Um,
but you can do that in the
I
shower though too.
I do. I do. Ask my neighbors. But that's actually where I do most of my vocal workouts, like my
Oh, it's
voice
in the shower.
workouts. So like, yeah,
Oh, it's
well, you got
warm
the
and
humidity.
yeah, it coats the throat and you
Yep.
know,
I put some eucalyptus oil on the floor and it's just all I can
isn't that just
breathe
the best?
again.
That stuff's the best.
It's perfect, yes.
Those essential oils, I love them.
To be
I don't know.
sure.
I'm a geek when it comes to that shit, but
Dude, me too.
love it.
Dude, I'm a nutrition coach. I am
Oh, that's
into
why you're a chef.
herbalism. Well,
That probably helps.
I became a nutrition coach because I was diagnosed with MS back
Oh,
in 2000.
no way.
And oh yeah way. But
Wow.
I fixed
Okay.
that shit. So I am now telling people how to help themselves.
Interesting. We'll talk off air about this. But
For
I'm kind of
sure.
curious. So yeah, so what you're telling me, obviously as a nutritionist, you know, dieting from what you're telling me kind of you know, it could literally kill you or it could save your life. Yeah.
Food is medicine. Food is
That's right.
medicine. Yes. For sure. I mean, I know what I'm allergic to now. I'm off dairy. I rarely eat a lot of grain. There's stuff that I know that my body reacts to. And now that I know it, I pull back, I thrive.
Well, the good thing about it being in LA is there's a lot of substitutes for that. So that we have a lot
Indeed.
of options there. I'm
Yes.
sure if you went to Kentucky or something, you'd be kind of shit out of luck because I don't know what they got there.
I
But
mean, even when I go back to Seattle, if I'm in Issaquah proper, there are places that I cannot go. I cannot eat in certain places because there is milk in every dish, or
right,
there is,
they
or if
cook
I
with
had a problem with like fish, like there's salmon in every dish because we are the city that has salmon days every year.
uh,
Issaquah, Washington.
or if you're allergic to say nuts like peanuts, a lot of
Okay,
stuff's kind of cooked in peanut oil. So I know that can,
yeah,
you know.
to be sure.
So I don't know
It's
if
tough, and now that I know what to look for, I'm all right, and I walk around with like a small stash of something with me all the time. But it's uh, it's a learning curve
I
for
like
sure.
that. How did you get into kind of cooking and the chef aspect?
I always loved watching cooking shows when I was growing up.
Me
That was
too.
my yeah. Who
Me too.
was your favorite?
Emerald and it was a guy with red hair and I can't remember what his name is.
Oh,
Yeah, that guy. It was
who
him
is
and Emerald.
who's actually from Washington State? I think
He's
Yakima.
awesome. I love the way I love watching him cook.
Bobo was his restaurant in New York.
I can't remember what his name is. If somebody can fill me in, he had
Yeah.
red hair, it was a ponytail, he had like kind
Yeah.
of like a scruffy beard.
Yep.
God
And
damn.
he wore the big orange Crocs.
Yes, but he was a bigger guy but
Yep.
I just remember the red hair
And
and
I
oh
really am
fuck.
shocked that I can't remember his name. I'm looking at my wall of books right now, and
Well, we're
I
all
don't see any of his cookbooks. But
the recording lights
Emerald,
on, so
not Emerald Lagasse. Ay,
no,
anyway,
he was my number
no,
one though. He was my number
yeah,
one. Still is.
yes. And then he got kind of this, but the redhead got kind of canceled after the whole Me Too movement because he
Oh, did
was,
he?
yeah, he apparently was him too.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't pay attention to all that garbage. To me, it's garbage. So I
yeah.
don't pay attention to it. I
I am
focus on the
tired.
positive aspects
And
of life.
I don't cancel people, first of all. I just acknowledge, accept, and move on. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Like I said, we have
yeah.
more in common than you think. Now,
Boom.
so yeah, what was your first kind of job cooking? I still want to. I'm on this cooking kind of craze with you now. So,
I've not really had any cooking jobs. I worked at a wine shop for 5 years right next to a cooking school where I did teach a few classes. Um, but I did write a book. I don't have one up here right now. It's called Farmers Market Frugal. That came out in 2012. Yeah,
where can
2012.
where can people buy
And
this? I've
that is on
never.
Amazon.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
I
called
just
Farmers
Farmers Market
Market.
Frugal.
Okay,
Yeah, because people always say that it's too expensive to eat healthy. And I'm like, yeah, screw that. And here's how you can do it. And I, put in numbers even like totals, what we would spend each week for the two of us. My guy and I, we live here in West LA in a pretty expensive zone. Um, you know, if we're able to stay under $80 a week, okay, we're happy. How much are we spending and how much am I spending at the farmer's market? And we did this thing where we're like, okay, if we only buy our food at the farmer's market and then anything else that we can't get at the farmer's market, we'll get at the grocery store, what are we going to end up spending? We cut our costs so much. It was
I think.
Mario Batali. Yes, Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That
that's my
guy.
buddy from high school, Chris Wallstrom. Yes. That's
Thank you,
another
Chris.
buddy from high school.
I was trying to think of it, but yeah, that guy. So
Why
those are
did
my two.
that come to mind? Yes. Mario
Those.
Batali is the redhead dude with the Crocs.
That's all I remembered was.
His restaurant was Bobo, yeah. And he got canceled, poor thing. But thank you, Chris, for that. But yeah, I decided to just buy our food, as much food as possible at the farmers markets. And then anything else that we needed, we would get from the grocery store as cost effective as we could and see what that would do to our bottom line. Because at that point, I just lost a job working in a wine shop, and we were trying to figure out what we could do just on his salary and my unemployment. And we cut our costs significantly, like way back. So if you want to find out, go to Amazon.com and pick up Farmer's Market Frugal.
No,
I'm not hugely proud of all of the recipes in that, but you know,
but
they're right.
but with that kind of cut in your guys' budget, you were still able to make it work and still eat healthy. So I think what you're trying to say is there's still no excuse to not eat healthy, kind of thing.
Indeed.
And here's my question for you:
Hmm.
Is it cheaper? And excuse my ignorance, please. Is it cheaper? Have you found that it's cheaper to buy from farmers markets as opposed to grocery stores? Or is it relatively kind of in the same ballpark, depending on what kind of food it is?
It depends on what you're buying. If you're buying stuff that's in season at the grocery store, it's going to be about the same as if you go to a farmer's market and you know people at the farmer's market.
Okay.
That's one of the best things about shopping in a farmer's market. You develop relationships.
Connections, yeah.
Yeah, I've known these people for over 20 years that I'm buying my produce from. I've seen some of these people grow up. Like it's kind of weird to say this and to notice it. It's not weird to say it, it's weird to notice it. I never thought that I would be one of these like old ladies at the market who keep coming around every week. But I am, they know what I'm going to get. They know how much of it. And they know that I don't want to spend more than $5 or $10 at each stop. Like, depending on what it is or what season it is. But if you get to know your seasons, you can really curb your costs.
And it's
That's
probably and you're talking like a lot of like more healthier organic kind of foods from farmers markets as opposed to say going in a grocery store and spending a little bit more for non-organic. I'm an organic guy.
yeah,
Sue me otherwise, I don't care. But
dude,
I just
rock
like
on, do it.
I'll spend the extra kind of money, but I'm sure at a farmer's market I could probably save tons.
That's the thing. Like, if you go to the farmer's market and if you're focused on organic, go to the farmer's market because they are going to sell it for what it is worth. They're not going to sell it for what it's worth plus what it costs to get it there plus what it costs to get the guy to convince the store to sell it there plus what it costs to package it plus there's a lot of extra added costs that go into buying food at a
Absolutely.
store with a roof.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and when you're buying food at a store with a roof and it's organic, they tend to charge an extra arm or 3 legs.
Yeah.
So if you're just getting it from the guys who actually grew the stuff, you get the little, okay, yay, it's organic, if that's extra for them. But if it's not, it's like, okay, this is what it cost me to get it here. This is what it cost me to grow it. Here you go.
Right. And then they still make a profit. You help local farmers out and, you're happy, he's happy, or he or she
And
is
it's
happy.
healthier. Yeah.
Right.
It's healthier because these plants, which I think of as other beasts or beings, are dealing with the same kind of conditions that you are. So you are dealing with the same stuff that they're dealing with. They are building up resources to withstand these things. It's all like really,
Yeah.
it's chemical, but it's fun.
And you establish connections. They know you, you know them, you know where it's been, and there you go. Now, one more time, what is it called again? Farmers Market Frugal?
Indeed it is. Farmers Market Frugal by Kat Braithwaite.
Go buy it on Amazon. And now
Indeed.
and obviously support local artists like ourselves
And
right?
local farmers.
That's
please.
right. Now let's get back to your journey, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious.
We've fed the journey now. I'm full now, so it's all good.
You technically have fed the journey. I like that. Now what I'm gonna preference is it's what year did you decide that you were kind of not really done with the acting and the the musical theater stuff, but you know, when did you decide like to trying in like an actual band?
I had always been looking for it. It was around '05 or '06 that I lost my job on Boston Legal and was sent back into a call center situation and was like, I'm not going to do this again. That was when I was like, okay, I just have to find something I want to do. And I did look deep into doing more acting. I was auditioning for stuff. But I was also auditioning for bands. I was auditioning for shows, bands. I was like, just get my face out there doing the things that I do well. I didn't want to be doing stuff that I was second guessing myself at. And music was not one of those things. Acting was not one of those things. So I'm like, I don't want to be trying to work in an office anymore. I don't want to be doing any more retail.
Okay.
I was like, okay, that was kind of when I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw down my gauntlet and be like, no more stuff I don't want to do. And right around then, I ended up working another retail job, but it was one that I was able to use in my nutrition coaching. So I was working in a kitchen supply store, which was actually based out of Seattle, sort of tub. And I was able to dig deeper into that realm and learn more about teaching. That's how I ended up teaching cooking classes. But once I think it was 4 or 5 years in there, another holiday season was coming.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
About 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I was like, I have got to get out here. I could not again. Not again. No more. I mean, yeah. So I quit and started actually immediately thereafter. I started talking to somebody about possibly doing my own cooking show, which was kind of cool, but that didn't pan out. When that didn't lead to anything, I was like, okay, anything that I do work wise from now on has to feed what I love. And therefore, it had to be nutrition or fitness or music. I wasn't even trying to act at that point. I was like, no, my brain doesn't work anymore. I have MS. I can't keep lines in my head. I'm just gonna stick to music and see where that goes.
Now, what does it give you? What does music give you that's different than all your other facets of art per se? You know, acting and writing.
It's easier to remember.
Okay.
It's a hell of a lot easier to remember. And with multiple sclerosis, there are a lot of memories that slip from me very easily. I may not even remember your name by the end of it. No, I'm kidding. But there's a lot of stuff that has shocked me. There's a lot of stuff that shocked me that I can't remember anymore, or I can't easily learn. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be in that point again until I can learn how to regain that skill. Let me just do the stuff that still clicks, still works, still sticks around. And music has always been. I mean, music was how I learned how to spell things. Music is how I learned how to find my way around town. Like, it's beautiful. It's a great way to know stuff, to understand stuff. And I don't know. It may seem or feel very basic, but it made sense to me to just kind of say, okay, well, I don't want to have to work that hard.
Well, and it also probably establishes kind of the same connections you would be getting from other facets of art as well. With the acting, maybe not the same people per se, but the same connections, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
indeed.
So you'd still be kind of focusing on a craft and bettering yourself in an art form that you would be doing if you were doing acting or musical theater or whatever it is. You
Yeah,
still be having that same, I don't know, that same kind of like energy that you'd be getting from other facets of art. So I like that.
totally.
Um, Now talk to me real quick about when kind of Old Blood came into your world, and just did
Mm.
you how did you get the audition, and did you kind of notice them around town, or notice like kind of and did you kind of notice like a musical community around you during this specific time period, or no?
Well, for probably about 5 years before I encountered Old Blood, I had been diving deep into the LA music scene. Like when I first came down here, I hadn't been hanging out where I should have been. I hadn't been going to that many shows, like on the strip or seeing a lot of rock shows. I would see one here or there. I'd go to the Viper once every 3 years, whatever. Um,
Okay.
but only when, somebody big that I knew from out of town was coming in or whatever, like Brad, or I think, was it Brad or Satchel? It was Brad. Um, that came down from Seattle. And that was the first time I went to the Viper Room, and I was like, ah. And I felt so comfortable there. And there were a few shows every once in a while. I'd be like, I really want to go someplace and just cozy into the walls and listen to the music and not talk to anybody and just go to a show. That's what I would do there. Never talk to anybody, never even order a drink. I would just get in, get out. Just, I was hiding in plain sight. And then maybe, I guess it was about 6 or 7 years ago that I was like, you know what? I need to just get out. And I was starting to find bands that I really dug and started to follow them. Um, oh man, let's go back. Let's go back to like
Let's
Legal
do it.
Tender
Oh
and
yeah, I remember
like,
those guys.
yeah, and Diamond Lane and um, ooh, oh my God. Oh my God. Like there's so many bands. But I would start to follow these few bands around,
Uh-huh.
and then I'd start to meet people because all of a sudden I was coming out of my shell, and I was like, okay, I'm back in LA. I'm gonna do this thing again. I had been living in like Santa Clarita for a minute, and I just was like, no, I gotta be here because this is what's calling to me. And when I started going out again, I started finding amazing bands. I started finding acts that were just like speaking to everything that made me want to make music. And I'm like, I can't not do this. And I started introducing myself as a singer, and then as a metal singer, and then as a hard rock singer. I was just like, guys, dude, hear me. I'm supposed to be here. Like, and I remember one night, it was the night that Venus went retrograde back in like 2014 or 16. 14.
Okay, we'll go
14.
14.
Yeah. Um, I was at the Troubadour, and oh, Future Villains. It's the other band. Future Villains, Diamond Lane, Legal Tender. I believe Yagikian was on that bill as well. And Desecrate. Wow, my
Oh yeah.
brain. Oh, it's all back. It's all back.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. I'm just messing. Just messing. Okay, so what
Yeah.
did that particular show do for you?
That night, besides the fact that I was like, okay, I'm going out to see these bands that I have found like here, there, and everywhere and fallen for, I've decided I need to be part of this community. And while I was buying merch that night, Harry Ostrom comes up to me. Would you like to sing in my band? I'm putting together a disco band. I didn't even know he knew I sang. I didn't even know he knew who I was. I did not know why he was talking to me. I'm like, hell yeah. A little bit later, like, I met some other people who knew him. I started meeting other people through other people. And then next thing you know, it all becomes like
A spider web of just connection.
yeah, a spider web of rock and roll delights. It was beautiful. And yeah, I'm not letting go.
I like it. And so Old Blood kind of came in after the disco thing.
Old Blood came in after the disco, which was before the cover band.
Oh,
Run for
so you have an eclectic styles of. So you've been in a lot of bands per se. This Old Blood
I
is
make
not
a
your
lot of
first.
noise. I
Okay.
mean, for me, if somebody is willing to put me behind a microphone, I'm there. I'm like, I don't care. What do you want me to do? Okay, I'll do it. Because I've always been very a bit of a chameleon when it comes to style. And I'm not trying to impose myself as much as just be a part of something.
Okay.
And
So
when
better the
rock and
project.
roll, yeah, and when rock and roll opened up and said, please be a part of me, I'm like, thank God, finally. I've been looking for you. I've been waiting for you, lady. Come on. Like, that was the thing.
See, and I remember, even a couple years back, you would, I think I saw you at one of our shows or some show. I specifically remember seeing you in the audience. So I don't think we knew each other at this time, but I always just thought it was so rad to see other people just get into the tunes, like I did. Because
What show was that? Where was that?
I want to say it was at the Viper Room, but I could be
Okay.
wrong. I could
I
be
wouldn't be
wrong.
surprised. I would not be surprised, especially with the amount of time I've spent in the Viper Room.
Right.
Like, I mean, that room is what, 4 miles away, and I would prefer to spend time there than my own bathroom. So yeah.
That's my favorite spot on the Sunset Strip as far as the clubs go. I really like the Viper Room a lot.
Me too. Me too.
I like the way they treat us bands. So there
Yeah.
you go. Now, so you get the call from, obviously you kind of knew somewhat of what Old Blood was kind of doing, and you get the call from somebody saying that they're kind of looking for a singer. You might want to
Ah.
give it a shot.
Oh, here's the deal, man. Okay, so
Okay.
last year on March 16th, I'm sorry, I'm pouring a beer right now.
That's
March
fine.
16th of last year.
What are you drinking before we get into the story?
This is the first time for me. Black Plague Brewing from from Oceanside, which, by the way, 1 year ago, November 1st last year, we were playing in Oceanside. Grim Ripper IPA.
There you go.
And it's got the cool, plague mask. I've got one on order right now. I think that's going to be my next mask for the next show that we have. But yeah, March 16th of last year, I was at the Viper Room. I was seeing one of Andrew's Vakken metal battles, and Old Blood was closing the night. And I had heard of them. I was like, oh, cool, female-fronted heavy band. I got to check them out. And I wanted to go to the show anyway. I had been playing a ton of Irish music all month because it was March. And that's what we do. I mean, my guys from Dublin, we play Irish music. We do all sorts of Irish gigs every year right around St. Paddy's Day.
Okay.
This was the night before Paddy's Day, and I was kind of diddly-idled out. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get out and get some metal in my head. I hung out till the end of the gig, watched, found out who won, and then Old Blood got on stage. I was like, what is this? Oh my God, I'm in this. Oh my God, this is mine. This is amazing. this is so cool. In fact, in my brain, I was like, I could do this because I heard Feather's voice. And this is something we talked about before, like the throaty singing. Like, I had always really kind of changed my style when I was singing heavy music to make it sound more raucous, more heavy, more masculine, more gritty. And she had this rich vocal that was still sounding really dangerous and really, oof, like, I can't even look at the word. I can't look at the word. I can't think of the word. But it didn't sound like she was trying hard to be heavy. It was sexy, it was dark, and it was dangerous. And it worked. And I'm like, this makes sense. And I was obsessed for like a week and a half. And everybody I talked to was like, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. And then 3 days after that week and a half, I get the message from Tom Chandler saying that the singers quit. And I was like, what happened? They're amazing. And he was like, well, you better get in touch with Andrew because they're going to be trying to find somebody new. I'm just trying to help out the band. And I was like on the horn to Andrew immediately because at that moment I was really, really feeling like if I don't take the bull by the horns at some point right now, I may not find my act.
Yeah, it could have been like a what could have been. And you don't want what could
Yeah.
have been.
I mean, I was 42 years old. Like, who joins a band in their 40s for like perpetuity? Like, and the thing is, I know that I've got the staying power. I know that I've got the oomph to stick with this and not let it go because this is something that I've needed for so smeggin' long. I'm like, I'm in it to win it. And
Yeah,
I want them to score too because these guys, oh my God, the talent in this band is off the friggin' charts. Like, yeah, I'm here to keep rock and roll alive and well. And this kind of rock and roll, I'm like, yes, let's keep it going because I felt it was accessible to a large audience.
Gotcha.
And the more people that could dig it, you know, the more people are going to dig rock.
Absolutely. Now let's move forward real quick.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the latest thing that you've been doing. We have to talk about the Acid Doom release. So I'm just kind of curious.
Yes!
I'm just kind of curious, you know, after, so even before this, so you get, you know, you do the audition with them. Who gives you the call to kind of like say like, hey, I'd like, you know, you're in, let's do this kind of thing?
Yeah, I did 2 calls. I went in once, did 3 songs. They're like, oh, well, could you learn the rest of them? Maybe come back next week? I'm like, hell yeah. At the time, they only had 7 original songs out. And so I'm like, okay, fine, I'll finish. And then I came back the next week, screwed up the first song royally.
Love it.
My brain was still stuck on the 60s. But the rest of it, I, you know, got through very well, felt comfortable with the rest of my performance. And then they're like, okay, well, if we wanted you to come back again, could you be off book? Could you do this? Could you show us what you want your stage presence to look like? I'm like, okay, 3rd callback. This sounds kind of promising. Went home, drank some champagne because I always believe in celebrating before I know, for sure. Just to make sure that I'm celebrating something. And went to bed, turned off my phone before bed, which I usually do, but at this point it really felt significant because I was like, I don't want to, if they say no, I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and find out no.
Right.
Woke up the next morning, turned on the phone. there was a message from Octopus, our bass player, that had been sent probably about 10 minutes after I turned off the phone saying, "Welcome to Old Blood."
Love it. Love it.
Whew,
Now, what
yeah.
is the first step after getting the gig? You know, what do you do? Just continue to practice every week with them, just learn their own songs, you know,
It was,
possibly do some shows with them.
well, it was "Welcome to Old Blood. You are on a 2-month probation period." We want you to write 2 songs, play a gig, I believe. There was something else. I feel like there were like 3, possibly 4 stipulations I had to fulfill. And writing the songs was the first and most difficult part of it. I think I did one more song than they had asked, but yeah, those were the things that was the thing that was I was kind of like, oh, I'm in this. This is I'm ready, you
Totally.
know.
Totally.
And I got through those 2 months. I think at the end of those 2 months, we did do a gig at the Old Town Pub in Pasadena, PPPPP, and it was great. And we also did a gig in Azusa at Callahan's. Love that place. I mean, they treat us really well, and it's a great room. It's a big room.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That
Now,
was also where our last gig was.
now, so let's move forward after this. So you
Yeah.
get the gig, you write some songs with them, do some stage shows. You know, give me that initial first show reaction. You know, in your mind, like what was going through you know your mind, and I guess the energy and you know stepping on that stage for the first time and knowing you're gonna have to front this particular band or whatever.
Yeah, that first show was pretty cool. I mean, I didn't know that many people in the room that night, but I just went into musical theater mode in my brain because I was like, okay, I'm doing this thing. I just have to speak to the back of the room. I need to feed the back of the room. I need to give the back of the room all of what I have.
Okay.
And it was fun, and I fell in love with the room. Like honestly, like that bar, that patio out back with all of the ivy and stuff growing up, it just felt like a really great nurturing space. The second gig at Callahan's, no, was actually maybe Callahan's was the first gig,
Right.
and the second was Old Town Pub. Yeah, it was the first gig at Callahan's, and Lloyd Grant came to that gig.
Okay. So no pressure there.
I mean, he's a buddy of mine, kind of like who I met through Andrew doing all of the Vakken battles, because he's been a judge for those at the
Oh, I
Viper and stuff
see.
like that.
I see.
I met him there, and that was maybe 3 years ago. No, 2 years ago. What date is this? Yeah, it's probably about 2 years ago that I had met Lloyd at one of those. And we kind of connected as Jamaicans in LA, like, you know, who are rockers. Like, my dad's from Jamaica.
Okay. I didn't know this. Yeah.
And Lloyd is from Jamaica. But it's it was really at that gig in Callahan's. Lloyd was there. Feathers was there. The original singer was there.
Okay. So no pressure again.
Her folks were there. I was like, okay, this is my time. It's not even no pressure. It's just like, oh, okay. You can't drop the ball. You just have to be amazing. And I just showed up and was as good as I could be. And we had a lot of great feedback. Lloyd told me that I reminded him of Eartha Kitt, which is perfect because I like to think of myself as a pre-incarnation of Eartha Kitt. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a lot of there was a lot of amazingly heartening stuff that happened in those first few gigs. People that showed up, people's reactions. Like I'm just this little kid who likes to make a lot of noise, you know? And all of a sudden people are like, yeah, keep doing it, keep doing it.
You keep doing it, and
I'm glad it's
obviously
good.
you
I'm
kept
glad you
doing
like
it. You kept doing it to make arguably your first record.
Yes!
So I'm just kind of curious, the writing process for this. How did you approach this record?
Oof. Gingerly. um, I mean, those first couple of songs that I had to write in my, challenge, I made a point to get quiet and make sure I was in the room by myself. Don't listen to I can hear him downstairs right now playing the guitar. I was just like, no, I need to be alone. I need to sit down with words that don't have anything to do with anything else. I'm just going to write. And the second song screwed me over on that one because I went downstairs to write the second song and the TV was on. That was the day that the cathedral at Notre Dame caught fire.
Right. That was horrible.
And
that was a horrible day.
Crazy. It was also the Ides of April, April 15th of last year, I do believe. And I didn't turn off the TV. And it so fed the song. But I'd also, I mean, there's a lot of other things that I pull from. I pull from a lot of native traditions. I pull from astrology. I pull from the news. Like, if there's a sound that resonates with a topic,
Then you
I'll
use
just, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now recording this record. Walk me through the recording process for it.
We did it in a couple of big swaths. We started mid-December of last year, and we did a scratch recording, basically, of everything, of everyone, with Tom Chandler up in his studio in Montrose, or North Glendale now, South Montrose. And we took it home. We all had a chance to listen to ourselves, figure out what we wanted to change, what we wanted to dig deeper into, expound on. And then we came back to LA in January. And I mean, I came back to LA. I don't think anybody else went out of town, but came back, went back into the studio with him, and just really dialed in on the stuff that we had figured out from doing the pre-production. Like, he was saying that a lot of bands didn't want to do that. I'm like, this is the best thing ever, because now we have a great framework for what we're, going to do, but we can actually layer onto it, add stuff, subtract stuff. Like, it was great.
And you could sell it for bonus material 20 years later. So there you go.
Shh, buddy.
Hey,
we weren't going to tell anybody that for another 3 years, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't spoil that. That was all you. But
I mean, no, we have not even talked about that. Actually, I've been thinking about that, but that's just my weird little head. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool working with Tom with the band, because I've worked with Tom before just on a few one-offs here and there, like single releases for other people, but like, it was so cool to see him working with this
kind of project or whatever at hand.
Group. Yeah. I'm going to say organism that is Old Blood, because it is such a breathing, living thing. Like, each person brings something else into this dance, and it kills. I love it.
Absolutely. I love the sound of it. I love the production of it. I love the overall sound. Like
Thank
I said,
you.
I had never heard anything like it. Don't take this the wrong way. It always it kind of reminds me of like the Napoleon Dynamite soundtrack, and I don't know why. Like every time I hear it, I want to watch Napoleon Dynamite. It's
You
really
know, I'm
strange.
gonna have to listen to that again. It's been
It's
a minute.
strange. I
But
mean, I don't know
well,
what it is. But anyway, that's the
it
beauty of
does
music
tick
for me. So
it does tick back. It does take you back. I mean, I
like to
listened
like
to
the
it.
mid 2000s kind of era. Like I
Hell,
don't
I'm
know what it
feeling like
is.
late 70s every so often.
Well, that too,
I'm
but
feeling some late 70s. I'm feeling mid 90s. I'm definitely feeling early 2000s
yes,
in some of it.
that's what I'm feeling too. And I think with the vocal style that you like, especially on the song Vein Scraper, like that chorusy kind of thing, I'm like, man, like this, it just takes me back to like that kind of time because I was like 13 or 14 years old at that time, so that's when the movie obviously came out. So
Right.
I don't know, just that whole rock kind of vibe just takes me back to that time period. And I
That's
mean, I
another
love
thing
it.
I love about Tom. I mean, some of the things that I have heard, and part of the reason why I wanted Tom to be involved in this, like some of the stuff that I knew he had produced before, like the Diamond Lane albums. I loved the sound quality of those. And he had just done a new album for Brandon Bauman, and I listened to that, and he played me some of the vocals just isolated, and I understood why he wanted to do what he wanted to do with our vocals.
Okay.
Because he expanded them to the point where I sound like a team of me on a few of those songs. And it just makes sense,
Totally.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, thanks so much, Lynx, for coming on the show and hanging with me. We got about an
Killer.
hour and a half done.
Yeah.
We might have to do a part 2 sooner or later and hang out and talk some
For
shop.
sure. For sure.
But before I let you go, where can people find this awesome album? It's called Acid Doom from Old Blood. It literally just came out this year.
Yep.
And go for it.
Yes, Acid Doom came out August 28th of this year, the day after my birthday. You can find it at oldbloodgroup.bandcamp.com. And this Bandcamp Friday, of course, I highly encourage anybody to, help us out that way. You can also find it live streaming at Old Blood Group on all the streaming services. Our website, oldbloodgroup.com, and all the socials, Old Blood Group.
Absolutely. Well, Lynx, thank you so much for giving me a couple minutes of your time. I'm out of here, guys. Cheers.
All right, Tanner.